I think that's Jess. I'm just going to go put my dog away. A spider. Come on, Nelly. Let's go to camera.
Hey, Ben, I just sent you a confirmation link via SurveyMonkey. It detected a new device, so it just needs to send a verification code, and it sent it to your email.
Okay, hang on. You ready?
Yep.
129835.
You said 129385?
No, 129835.
835. Awesome. Thanks.
Yep. Brent says he logged in, but he can't see us. That could be the same case with Corey. Hang on. Do you see my email on your screen, Jess?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. How do I get to my notes? Okay. That's weird. Hey, Brent. Oh, he's still connected. Jess, would you mind just IMing Corey, make sure she's on her way?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Brent, I don't know if you can hear us yet. Looks like you're still connecting to audio. If you can hear us, good morning.
All right, just pinged Corey. Hopefully she sees that.
Good morning.
Morning, Brent. How are you?
Terrific.
You got your Trailblazer swag on.
Yeah, does it look all right? Just trying to.
You always
It's
look
awesome.
good, Brent.
All right. So the biggest question I have is Corey good with her part of the demo? I don't know if y'all are winging it or if you got the bug fixed yet, but I just want to make sure that part is good.
Yeah, Brent. So the bug has been fixed. They as product stood up a new environment and fixed everything we needed to fix. And the only person who has access to that environment is Corey. I don't even have access. So we just
all right.
to
So
make
are
sure
they gonna? All right, and they'll push a new package shortly, I'm assuming, or you will, or somebody will.
Yeah, I would think so. And you know, that's kind of in Ron's whole whenever we do something new, it goes into 2 weeks of Q&A, and you know, I've kind of taken my hands out of that, other than, hey, you need me to push a package, I can help, but I think you can do it.
All right.
I'm the marketing guy, I'm not a product guy.
Yeah. All right. So what do we want to rehearse here? What do we need to cover?
Hang on, we're making sure Corey can get in, so hang on a sec.
Okay.
Any response from her, Jess?
No, not yet. It doesn't look like she's online.
I may call her cell. Hang on.
Okay.
I know that she was out Monday, I think, but she was back yesterday, so. Sorry, Brent. Hang on.
No worries.
I got her voicemail, so I'm just going to call her manager real quick, see what's up.
There she is.
Hey, Corey.
Hey guys, good morning.
Good morning. I just tried calling you. I would recommend getting rid of your background because it's inverted.
Does mine look inverted too?
Yours looks okay, Brent. I see AKCRM laid out, but like you need to flip your background, Corey.
I
Well,
do.
you know,
Yeah.
It's funny because both mine and hers look inverted, and I know from the panelist view, it looks that way. It's hard to tell. I've had to test it about a dozen times. It does look backwards to me, but so does mine when I look at it up at the top.
That's weird. Mine shows that it's right.
Yeah, I'd rather you turn it off than have it inverted.
There you go.
Right?
How about
there? It's good.
There, it's good. Okay.
I don't know how to do that, so you can see my office, and I think it makes us real too. So, I think we're going to go through kind of a quick walkthrough, really quick. We will start broadcasting in about 20 minutes, just a little bit before the 9 a.m. hour. So, if that's okay, Brent, let's go through kind of the introduction, and I'm just going to go super quick. So bear with me.
Hey, and just a reminder, you're going to record this, yes?
Yes, it is automatically recording.
Perfect.
And I will recheck it and make sure it's recording. And Jess, maybe you can help on that. No, let me record it because I need to record it on my machine. So anyway, hello, welcome to our webinar. My name is Ben Cornett, and I'm today's moderator. We're happy to partner with AKCRM for today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping items. Please note you can post any question in the chat. We'll be watching those and answering those towards the end of the webinar. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be made available to all of our participants today. We'll get started in just a minute. We'll probably give people another minute to log in. As we get going again, as I said, my name is Ben Cornett. I head up our partner marketing here at Verified First, and I'm really happy for the opportunity to be joined with Corey Pelosi and Brent Mello. Corey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Ben. Doing well. How are you?
Good. And I know it's extremely hot here in Boise, Idaho, at our headquarters here at Verified First. How are you surviving?
Oh, it's been a bit tough lately, but staying inside with the AC cranked has helped out a good bit.
You and me both. So Corey, we're really happy to have her. She heads up our partner relationship manager here at Verified First, specifically working directly with AK CRM and our partners related to Salesforce. I also want to introduce really quick Brent Mello. Brent, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Ben. It's great to be here.
Good. Brent is the president and CEO of AK CRM. And Brent, maybe really quick, tell us a little bit about AK CRM and what you guys are all about.
Absolutely. We are a full-service comprehensive provider of Salesforce and Conga services. We are also partnered with Verified First, as you well know, and we are excited to be here today to show everybody what they can do for their nonprofits to manage their volunteers and do successful background screens.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're super excited. I think it's been probably a year and a half in the works, Brent, in pulling together an app really to help nonprofits be able to effectively recruit, manage, communicate with volunteers, and of course, when the time's needed, to be able to screen them. So without much further ado, Corey, take us a little bit about Verified First. You want to kind of high level tell us what we're a little bit about?
Oh, Ben, I thought this was going to be you were going to cover this one.
So before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Verified First. We're a background screening solution. And what we do is really partner with organizations like AK CRM to bring the solution to make it really easy, super simple, to be able to effectively screen volunteers for nonprofit organizations. At the bottom, some of the awards we're recognized for, but that's not really what we're about. We're really about being at the top of our game and making sure that we're bringing the best business tools, the best solutions, not only for-profit, but nonprofit organizations specifically. VMS, I think that's yours, Corey.
Yeah, this one's mine. Okay.
Sorry.
So in this part, I'd love to really start off by providing a bit of backstory. VMS was really born from a disconnect that we witnessed in the nonprofit and volunteer space. And when I mean disconnect, I really mean from a technology perspective. So what we're finding that was that time and time again, nonprofit organizations were having to settle for volunteer management solutions that weren't really fully meeting their needs, and in most cases having to use multiple platforms that didn't necessarily talk to one another. This plays an especially big role when it comes to engaging your volunteers and donors. Anyway, I have a little script there that I'll read out, but really more so talking about how VMS came to be, and then touching on, as you'll see on the screen there, there's quite a few areas that we'll highlight on today's demo. And I'll say we couldn't have done it without our amazing partner, Brent's team over at AK CRM. I'll then pass it over to you, Brent.
Terrific.
Awesome.
So, and because I've got a slide about AK CRM here, Ben, you might not ask me about the company up front because I got a slide to do that. So you could ask me anything about what's going on, happening in your neck of the woods, what's happening in Colorado, whatever you like. But, we're a comprehensive service provider for Conga and Salesforce, advisory implementation support services. Of course, our team is all background checked using the same technology you will see today. We've been involved in more than 2,800 Salesforce-related initiatives, and we serve nonprofit education and broad commercial industries. If you have questions, you can go to goakcrm.com/next step.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to click through the slides real quick, Brent. I just saw your chat note. I'm going to dial into the phone.
Okay, why don't you do that? Let's see, and do we have the ability, I know we're co-panelists, but I don't know that we can move slides forward. And then I guess this is mine too. And so for those of you on the phone that don't have Salesforce yet, not a problem. If you're thinking about it, we have a nonprofit Power Start that can get you up and running very quickly with Salesforce and the Nonprofit Success Pack. And if you do that between now and the end of September, we are happy to do the free installation of the VMS application you'll see today. Normally a paid installation, but we would be happy to do that for you at no cost and include it in the nonprofit Power Start.
Awesome.
And then I don't know, Corey, if you or Ben are going to tee up, it's like, hey, you're about to see a demo, or take it away, or something like that. And then I guess I will start sharing my screen from there.
Yeah, I'll key that up, and then I'll I think stop presenting, and then I can make you presenter. Okay.
All right. So it looks like I can share and take control here. So I'm going to, and so let me just confirm what it is that I'm going to share. Let's see, advanced. I want to cite. I'm not doing files. I'm looking advanced, basic. There we go. Chrome. So I'm going to share that. Tell me you can see. You should be able to see the AKCRM slide, correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And then if I do that, can you now see the VMS application?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to start this at the beginning. We have a little component that we've embedded on the website to publish our volunteer positions. This is a Salesforce sites component that you can simply iframe in your website. You can style it and brand it to look like your own company. This little component is included in the VMS package that you will get on installation. We'll talk a little bit about how somebody could create these. We'll flip over to VMS. We'll create a new volunteer opportunity. So we'll create a new need. We'll go through the volunteer need. We'll come back. We'll refresh the screen. We'll see that new volunteer need pop up. Somebody could come in and volunteer now. If we talk about if they are already a volunteer, they can simply log in. If they have not, they can put in Dan Smith and demo plus Dan at akcrm.com. Put in password, they can volunteer. Then what we'll do is we'll take them back into to Salesforce, and let's see which one we looked at, and we'll go to the particular record, and we'll see under the volunteer tab, here is Dan's record that just came in. And we'll also talk about the fact that if Dan's already in the database as a contact and we've been nurturing him, all that data can automatically come over using some standard Salesforce technologies. So we'll do that. We'll also talk about how we can engage with individuals and in the volunteer position. And so we can select individuals. We can send them emails. We can compose a custom email. We can also insert a template that we create individually. Here's an upcoming volunteer event. We can send that off, and bang, we have new volunteer communications over here. We can also update statuses. So if everybody has canceled or been moved to wait list or no-showed or at the end of the event attended, we can update those statuses on the fly. And so we're just going to leave these here as select all. Make sure I get these still back to the way they were, active. And then finally, we will talk a little bit about how we can go to a particular volunteer record. I'm going to end on Hank Mess. I'm going to use Hank Mess. I'm using the K Pelosi plus 0819 at verified first in my demo. So when you switch over, Corey, we'll talk about here's Hank Mess. And it's so important these days to background check your volunteers. In our case, our volunteers working with money, and so it's important we run a background check, but they could be working one-on-one in close environments. They could be working with children, and Corey is going to take it over and show you how you can use this wonderful background technology to keep your organization safe and protected. And so with that, Corey, I think if you just click share screen, it will take it away from me and it will share your screen if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So let me just move that over here.
And while you're doing that, Corey, just checking the sound. Is it better, Brent?
Yes, it is. It does sound better.
Yeah, that is better, Ben. So went into full screen mode, so I wasn't able to pull over. Maybe I'll have it up on the side screen here, so it'll just be a quick kind of move to it. I think, Brent, if you maybe want to hover over, not click, but, you know, kind of pull this up, because what I plan on doing is essentially showing, even though we got this to work, is really where I want to start. Okay, you know, let's say we're continuing on with Brent and we're running the background screen on Hank Mess. You know, it would, when I click on the verified background screen button, it'll take me into this page, where as you can see, it pulls in all of the relevant information for Hank Mess. I'll go through the process of, you know, inputting a name where needed. I'll kind of have this already teed up. Talk a little bit about how they can create different positions for their different volunteer needs instead of having to choose a la carte. For today's purposes, I'll just perform a social security trace so we can see what the report looks like when it comes back. I'll go ahead and send the invite. I'll auto order it. And then what I'll do from there is walk through kind of as I did on our dry run last week, where I'll take them through the actual volunteer experience for Hank Mess, where he's signing off on the individualized disclosure forms. And then I'll pop back in here for the ready for review to be able to then show that report, what it looks like when it comes back, and the adjudication process. So Ben, I'll plan on stopping there, and I'll say, you know, I'll just do Ben, I'll hand it back to you, and then I think I'll stop sharing and you can kind of share that final slide we have.
Yeah, and I don't know that you need to stop sharing. Like Brent said, we can just take over.
Okay.
Whoever shares just takes it away from the next person. So, yep.
Perfect.
Cool. And I think that worked. You came back to the slide that's got like our contact info, right?
Yes, we did. And so are you going to just solicit questions, kind of like a panel at this point? Ben, is that the plan?
Yeah, so we'll be watching chat. And so we'll start with any questions that came into chat. And Brent, I did softball some questions, so you have not seen these. So I'm just going to run them by you really quick because we have a few minutes to do that.
Yep.
And Corey, I sent those to you last night, so I think you've had a chance to look at those.
Yes.
You know, I think I would like to. So the first question is, how do I create a recurring event? And Brent, I know that that's not a feature that we built, and I intentionally built that because I could see someone saying, oh, I can replace recurring activities I have, and I don't want to set them up for failure. So I think if we don't get any questions, I would ask something like, so, you know, we got a question here. So how does a nonprofit create a recurring event that they might have every month?
Great question, Ben. So using the standard Salesforce clone feature, you can go to an individual instance of event, you can clone it, put in a new date, and you will now have a second instance. And as a reminder, once an event has passed, you can have it automatically hidden. So the ones that have already gone by will automatically fall off your volunteer page.
Okay. The next question, you can tell me, Brent, to kill it or not. I thought it was interesting. There could be users on the webinar that don't know how to use or create a template. So someone might ask, you know, I've not used email templates that you showed us. How do I create one in Salesforce? Is that too complicated? Or is that something we could go back to sharing a screen and quickly walk through?
Yeah, it would be something that we'd have to go back and share, and it really is nothing to do with this. So I'd probably kill it. I'd love questions if we're going to softball them that could be answered, not demonstrated, because we'll chew up probably too much time. It's standard functionality. We can certainly train somebody. It's really easy to do, and I'm going to try to avoid going into anything that's kind of very specific and detailed. But if it's a question on, you know, does it do this? You know, we might share, but then, you know, I got to take control back away and do this. So I'm going to avoid trying to demo where we can and encourage people. The emails are right there. Send me an email. I'd be happy to give you a one-on-one or show you or help you like that.
Okay, cool. I'm cool with that. So I killed that question. The other question I think that is relevant, you know, we've talked about this is, you know, I know sometimes, you know, I'd like to invite some of my donors to volunteer. Can VMS do that?
Absolutely. So using your standard marketing automation, most of you have a great contacts database. You can mass email your donors, your contacts, or constituents, and you can drive them to your volunteer page. You can also drive them to the registration link for a single event. If you're having a hard time filling a particular event, each event has its own registration link. So that will be on the specific page, and you can drive them to those events. So great question, Ben.
Yeah. And vice versa, does that work also, Brent, if, I want to invite my volunteers to donate?
Absolutely. Now that you have your volunteers in Salesforce, it makes it pretty easy to connect them with their contacts. They're automatically connected. And on the contact record, you can identify who's a volunteer and who's not. So it makes it pretty easy to create a filtered list or targeted list of volunteers that you want to email to. Sure, absolutely.
Cool. I think really for the VMS app, the volunteer part, that's the last question. Corey, the questions are like, hey, if I run a background screen, what's a typical turnaround time look like?
Right. And for that one, Ben, I'm just going to talk about how, the majority of our screens come back instantaneously with the exception of a few that may require some county or state input, and those may take up a few additional days.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And I would expect a question on pricing too, so you can be thinking about your answer.
Yeah, that's actually my next question, and we get that question every webinar we do is, Corey, you got a question here, and it talks about how much does this cost?
Great question, Ben. And so all that you saw up until on the volunteer management piece from Brent, all of that's free. And really the only cost factor to this would be for the screens, and those screens, there's no monthly license fee, there's no annual fee. It is solely based on the screens that you run per month. So if you run 10 this month, 20 next month, you'll be billed for the screens that you run. Another great component is that since this is a program for nonprofits, we have specialized nonprofit discounting, because we know cost is a big factor when it comes to the needs of the organization.
Awesome.
I would also encourage everybody, mute your phone while each of you are doing your piece. There's a mute button just to keep background noise out, but just be very aware when it's your time to talk. Unmute is your friend.
Yeah, I think the last question is, Corey, and I know we're working on this, so we may not want to ask this question, but can volunteers pay for their own background screen?
I think it's an okay question. We do have the ability to set up volunteer pay, with the exception of course, some state laws that we have to abide by with that. But, in short, yes, we can do that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get more questions. And if I get questions, Brent, I'll actually call out the person's name that asked the question, because then it's answering them specifically. But if we did get no questions, those are the questions we would ask.
That's terrific. And I think this is going to be great. So thank you very much for putting it together, guys.
Awesome. And then real quick, Ben, I sent you a link. I just figured we could probably generate more leads if we have it right then and there, in addition to the follow-up email.
Did you IM it?
I did. Yeah. So we can include it at the end in the chat, so everyone on the webinar can access it.
Let me just put that in my notepad that's open. Hang on. Oh, that's for the survey, like the post-webinar survey?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So Brent, our post-webinar survey, we've used the same kind of methodology for a year and a half. And usually it's, would you tell someone else about the webinar? That's the #1 net promoter score that indicates that they got value. And then we ask is like, did you get value from the webinar? And then we ask them, would you like an individual demo with VMS? And if they answer yes to that, our team is ready to take action and going through the demo. And I think on certain accounts, like we have some very large education organizations that came from your registration, Brent, link.
Sure.
Like Western Governors University. Yep. So if someone like that were to engage, I
can help with any of them, irrespective of where they came from. So that's not a problem. So terrific.
Okay, cool. I'm back on slide 1. I'm just going to queue everything up here. We're not doing any polling questions, Corey. You know, we normally do, but we're not here, so, which is okay.
How many registrants did we have? What was the total number that registered?
Last number I just looked at was 39.
Okay.
And I'll
great.
send you a list. We'll share the list shortly after. A lot of education organizations, which is good.
Interesting. Okay, so I'll play to them too.
Yeah, let me go ahead and start our broadcast. I'm going to mute myself. You might do the same until we get going here. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Ben Cornett here with Verified First, and we're going to get started here in just a few minutes with our webinar on volunteer management screening, also known as VMS. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. We have a few people still joining us, so for those of you just joining, welcome to our webinar this morning. We'll get started in just a minute. Again, for those just joining, my name is Ben Cornett. I'm your moderator for today's webinar. We'll get started in about 30 more seconds here. We got 6 or 7 more people still joining this morning. Again, welcome to our webinar. Outstanding. So we'll go ahead and get started again. My name is Ben Cornett here at Verified First, and today I'm your moderator for our webinar. There is a chat feature here in GoToWebinar, so a couple housekeeping items. You can certainly take a quick moment and chat and make sure you can hear me. Maybe just type 1 in the chat that you can hear everything. And then you see our screen. It says introducing VMS. Just give us a heads up there in the chat and let us know. Today, we're really happy to be partnered with AKCRM, one of our partners here at Verified First in this initiative with volunteer management and screening app that we built. And we're really excited for today's webinar to be able to introduce VMS to you all. A few housekeeping tips. We are recording the webinar today, so a copy of this recording will be provided to you, and as well as just recalling out any questions during the process of the webinar. You can certainly type those in the chat, and we'd be happy to try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. I'd like to quickly introduce our guest panelists for today. First, we have Corey Pelosi. Corey is a partner relationship manager here at Verified First. Corey, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Ben. I am doing well. How are you?
I'm outstanding, trying to stay away from the heat here at our headquarters in Boise, Idaho. It's like 104 today or something like that. How about you?
Doing about the same here, staying inside with the cool AC on. I think we're breaking some records lately with this heat we've got going on.
Yeah, definitely are. Well, Corey, you know, she heads up, like I said, the partner relationship here with AKCRM, and has been a member of our team a little over a year, and really embedded with the Salesforce solutions that we offer here at Verified First. I'd like to introduce Brent Mello. He's the president and CEO of AKCRM. Brent, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Ben. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for including us.
Yeah. Are you also getting the heat wave up there in Colorado?
It is a beautiful day in Colorado. The bears and the wild turkeys are out in force, so it's a good thing the doors are closed today.
I love it. Well, awesome. Well, we want to, again, thank you for coming on and joining our webinar today. We're going to take just a few moments and kind of frame everything up, a little bit about Verified First. Sorry about that pop-up here. I don't know how to turn that off, but a little bit about Verified First. We are a background screening company in essence, and you can see that on the screen. We really focused on creating apps that deliver background screening with very little friction, very easy to use, and very quick. We've won a bunch of awards. I really don't call that out because, hey, we've won a bunch of awards. I like to mention that because we're committed to driving innovative technology, and you'll see that today in our demo with Salesforce. We are an ISV partner with Salesforce as well. Really important and really excited to have this partnership with AKA CRM and also with Salesforce. Corey, why don't you take a moment and talk to us really how VMS was born and what it's all about?
Sure, absolutely, Ben. So you can see on the screen there just a high level of some of the features that VMS is capable of, which we'll take you through here later in today's session. But really just want to start off by providing a bit of backstory on really how VMS was born. And where it was born was really from a disconnect that we witnessed in the nonprofit and volunteer space. And what I mean by that is from a technology perspective. What we were finding was that time and time again, nonprofit organizations were having to settle for volunteer management solutions that didn't really fully meet their needs. And in most cases, were having to use multiple platforms that didn't necessarily talk to one another. So this played an especially big role when it came to engaging their volunteers and donors. And, you know, we've seen this trend of more and more donors wanting to experience and take part in the volunteer work, as well as volunteers being a great resource for those donors that you're looking to find as well. I can even recall actually a couple of nonprofits that try to build these volunteer management programs from the ground up with Salesforce to accommodate their needs. And so as you can imagine, these processes are not only costly, but also time consuming and required a lot of resources. So all in all, we understand how important the work that each and every one of your organizations do. So we really wanted to make it our mission to solve this problem, to really create one seamless solution where nonprofits could easily recruit, manage, and screen their volunteers, all while leveraging their existing Salesforce data. So with VMS, we're really able to offer that all-in-one volunteer management solution that's not only streamlined, but it's simple and with rapid results as well. And we couldn't do all this without our amazing partner and Brent's team over at AKA CRM. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Brent.
Thank you, Corey, and again, good morning, good day to everyone here that's joining us, to our fellow Salesforce users, non-Salesforce users, Trailblazers. Just quick background, AKA CRM is a comprehensive provider of services for Salesforce and Conga. We're also partnered with a wonderful group of ISV partners, including Verified First. I originally got introduced to Verified First because we needed a way to compliantly background screen our staff, and so I'm really proud to report that all of the staff at AKA CRM have gone through background screens, are Salesforce certified. They've been involved in thousands of Salesforce-related initiatives over the years, and we serve nonprofit, education, and broad commercial industries. So we're very glad to be here today, and we're glad that Verified First asked us to participate in the building of the VMS application. And some of you, most of you already have Salesforce, but if you don't have Salesforce yet, not a problem. We have a nonprofit Power Start to help organizations that are looking to get onto the Salesforce platform and do it quickly and inexpensively get started. And if anybody's interested in getting more information on that, you can have it says a fee conversation. That should be a free conversation at goakcrm.com next step. And if we implement for you by the end of September, we will be happy to do the VMS implementation for you for free. It's a pretty easy process, and most organizations are able to complete it on their own. So, thank you, Corey, for the introduction.
Yeah, Brent, and Corey, thank you for kind of setting us up today. I think the best way for us to direction or show the VMS app is probably take a look at how it really works. And you know, Brent, I think you can probably present your screen and walk us through the volunteer ability to recruit, manage, communicate with volunteers there really quick, and we'll kind of go from there. And
absolutely.
There we go.
Yep. So I'm going to start actually kind of at the end result, which is we've got our AKCRM website up, and we may be, this is an example we mocked up for you, but you'll notice we have a little component on here that says open volunteer positions. It could say open needs. It can have whatever you want. This is simply a Salesforce sites page that's been iframed into our website. So we give a little block of code to our website manager, and he was able to easily embed this into our website. And so, that's the first thing that we've observed that our clients need to do is they need to promote these volunteer positions. Many of them want to do it on their website. You can certainly send them out in emails, but the VMS application includes this little component that you can easily embed in your website. A couple other things about that component. It can be styled, so you can change the color, the font size, the font style. So those can all be done set through settings within the VMS application to make it look like it fits your website. The other thing I'll notice is the fields of data that we're gathering, how many volunteers we need, perhaps an age requirement when that position is. We've had organizations that said, yeah, but I also need to show other information on this little component. And so again, I'm pleased to report that you can also add additional fields of information, again, through custom settings and field sets to be able to add without having to redevelop, just add the fields of data that you want into the application. And so that's where we start. From the end goal, we've emailed out our constituents and we drive them to our volunteer page. We can also email them a particular event that we need them to fill. And, so that's where it typically begins. These records right here are not static content, so I'm going to flip over into our Salesforce application. I've got the VMS application up, and we can see right here those same two positions, our volunteer receptionist and our volunteer bookkeeper, and we're actually able to turn those positions on or off or update the content and the text directly inside of Salesforce, and we actually have a little preview panel on the right so we know what those are going to look like. And what I thought I would do is create a new volunteer event so you can kind of get the sense of, if you're a volunteer coordinator, what that experience might be like. So I'm going to click on the new volunteer need application, and let's see here. We're going to have an event coming up, and the event, we're going to need some event check-in table hosts. And we can type in a description of what we're looking for, what the requirements. We're looking to welcome guests at our annual gala. We get a check-in prepaid guest and sell walk-in tickets, and I can set the date to anything I want, but this particular event is going to be on September 15th. We are selling alcohol and we are taking money, so in this case, I want to set a minimum age, so I'm going to put 21, and we're going to need 3 people for the table, and again, because we're taking money and we want to kind of protect our investment, I'm going to check the little box here that just kind of reminds us that we want to background check this position. I can save this record in draft, meaning it's not on the website yet, so I can start working on it and building it up and kind of planning for my volunteer needs, or I can simply change it to active, and as soon as I click active, that event is now live on our website. And so if I were to refresh my little dashboard, you'll see it'll give it a second and it'll come back in here. But if I go back, can't do it more than once a minute. If I come back to our website and I just refresh my page, we're going to see there it is. There's my events check-in table looking for people. And you'll notice in these others there was no age requirement. In this one, I said it had to be 21, and so we're indicating that particular requirement. So we could set all kind of different age limits, but we now have very quickly and easily, in a matter of a minute, published a volunteer need. Again, just kind of notice that it's showing that we need 3 positions for that table. And so the next exercise is people show up at this event or show up on this page and they want to register to volunteer. And so all they have to do is click the Volunteer Now, the little button, and they get a little form where they can register. If they are already a volunteer and they volunteered for us before, they can simply really just put in their email and their password and volunteer, so they don't have to re-enter everything, but if they're brand new, they can fill it out. So I'm going to register as this gentleman, Hank Mess. I'm going to put in 3 basic pieces of information: first name, last name, and an email address. Notice for the moment, I'm leaving the birth date blank, and I'll show you in a minute how and why. And I'm also going to create a password for Hank. And I'm going to go ahead and click volunteer now. And by the way, these fields, these are the basic fields that come pre-configured, but just like the form itself, if you need to capture other pieces of information, let's say you're giving away t-shirts and you need t-shirt size, you can add whatever custom fields that you like to the particular volunteer event. And again, that's not done with code, it's just done with configuration from within the application. So I'm going to click volunteer now. And so we've just got a confirmation that Hank is successfully registered for the check-in table. I'm going to refresh the browser again one more time, and you'll notice I asked you before to notice the volunteer needs said 3. It's now down to 2 because Hank just volunteered, and so we only need 2 more left. And again, there's a couple of different settings that can be configured on the back end. One is when the next 2 people register, we can actually have this volunteer need disappear off of the list altogether, so full events can not be displayed. We can also tell it to just show that the event is full. So again, we've got a couple options, and we try to think through what our constituents might be interested in, and we've made this configurable for you. So let's go back into the VMS application. We'll pull up the here's our event check-in table. I can see that I needed 3, I've got 1, and so there's 2 positions left. I can also see the name of our volunteer coordinator, and I'm just going to click through and get to our particular volunteer position. And so again, all the information that we had before, I can click on the volunteer tab, and sure enough, there's our Hank Mess record, and Hank came through. So very excited to see that I'm starting to get volunteers. If I want to engage with my volunteers, and this is a pretty common thing, I need to send them an email. Hey, the venue's changed. We've changed the time. Don't forget to bring a water bottle, so we want to communicate with them. It's very easy to do that. So under our engagement tab, we've built in a nice little way to engage. We can select all, and again, we've got just the first volunteer, but we can have, dozens here. We check off the ones that we want to communicate to. It could be all or any. And I can easily send that group an email, and it brings up a little email form, and I can either manually rip out an email, or more excitingly, I can use an email template. And again, I've got a nice little template prepared called Volunteer Event Coming Up, and so I can select that template, and I can click Send. And so I've just emailed all my volunteers. Over in the Salesforce side panel, before there was no communication, if I refresh that, I can now see that today I'm in Mountain Time at 8:17 a.m. I have sent off the volunteer event, and I can keep track of the communication that I've sent out to that group. So it's a really nice way to communicate out to the volunteers, either on an ad hoc basis, kind of one at a time, or by sending them a template. And again, because this is all built on Salesforce, I could build in my own workflow automation with process builders and workflow rules that anytime a new volunteer registers, I can automatically send them an email that says, hey, thank you for registering, etc. At the end of the event, one of the things that we often do is record their status, who showed up, who was a no-show, and again, I can select or unselect my volunteers, and in bulk, I can click update the status, and I can just change people to attended or no-show, wait list, canceled, etc. And again, I can do that throughout my process. So very nice way of being able to communicate out with my volunteers. And because, again, this is built on Salesforce, we have a tab for files and documents. So if I am a volunteer coordinator, I can load up the contract for the venue or any other materials that I have, and those materials can also be sent out to volunteers, and we can keep the things all together. And I can also create tasks to remind myself to follow up and do different things. So that's the exciting part about engaging. So far we've showed you posting on the website and how we can promote the events. We just talked a little bit about engaging the volunteers by sending them emails, by looking at them, And then the last thing I wanted to show you is look at the individual volunteer themselves. So I'm going to click on Hank's volunteer record. And if you'll remember, when I logged in or when Hank registered, all we put in was first name, last name, and email address. But you notice on his volunteer record that we've got a birth date, and we've got an age, and we've got phone numbers, and we've got addresses. And so you might say, where did all that come from? Well, we notice over here there's a related content, Hank Mess at Heartland Hospital. And because Hank used the same email address when he registered as we had in our database, it automatically pulled that information through. So if you're basically trying to get your existing constituents to volunteer, a lot of times you don't need to request that information because it will bring it through. And again, we accomplish that with just a little standard Salesforce process builder. Anytime a new volunteer record's created, it automatically links it, and if the fields are blank on the volunteer record, we told it, hey, just copy it off the related contact if there is one. If we were on Hank's contact record, inside of the VMS application, we can also see here's Hank's volunteer record. We see again his name, age. We also see the number of participations Hank has had, and I'm going to pop back over here. So in this case, on Hank's volunteer record, we can see that Hank has volunteered for our check-in table on this date, and the status is active, or it was a no-show, or it was attended. But generally speaking, we often see volunteers for organizations show up not once, but show up multiple times. So that's a very exciting thing that we need to do. So managing the volunteer has never been easier. And again, we can communicate and email directly to Hank off his individual volunteer record. And of course, the last thing that we always want to think about is the safety and security of our staff and our other volunteers and the resources and assets of our organization. And for all kinds of good reasons, we may want to background screen an individual. And that's why we were really excited to be able to partner with Verified First and embed their wonderful background screening technology. So if I wanted to background screen Hank, all I need to do is come up to the button, the Verify and Background Screen button. And I'm going to have Corey tell you more about that because she is the expert on it. So Corey, if you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like, kind of the next step on running the screens, that would be terrific.
I think really quick, Corey, as you get that set up and share your screen here, just kind of a interjection, Brent. And I know I normally don't answer questions on the fly, but you're already with your screen there. One of the questions is like t-shirt sizes. Is that one form for all, or can they create unique forms? So maybe some volunteers don't get t-shirts and others do.
Right. So right now the version of VMS that we have is basically it's a single registration form. So you'd have to kind of think that through, but you can always workflow out a separate email template using basic Salesforce stuff to ask them questions that might be specific to a certain subset of volunteers within an event or a questionnaire for different types of events. So again, we're something that we can absolutely help you customize for your own organization. But great question, Ben. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and Art, thanks for the question. Corey, I think it's interesting as we transition. I know right now where you've just clicked the verified background screen. Background screening, we know from some research from Aptitude Research, which is a third party that we've hired, that 38% of organizations in the for-profit world don't screen their employees. When we were at Dreamforce last year, it was interesting as we're talking in the nonprofit lodge with nonprofit organizations, that number is close to 60%. And so screening is really important. You want to maybe comment on that before we really dive down to how we're doing that at Verify First?
Sure, absolutely, Ben. Much like Brent mentioned, this is the security of your organization. You want to make sure you protect your cause and aren't putting your other members or the nonprofit as a whole at risk, or the vulnerable populations that you may work with. So this is where, background screening is really key to make sure that those that you are bringing on as volunteers that are interacting with the public, are in line with what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, you want to walk it. So now I think everything up to right now until we actually do the screen, and Brent, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the volunteer ability to manage, recruit, communicate with volunteers. Everything you've showed us, Brent, right now is free by installing the app on the App Exchange. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. I should have mentioned that. So the ability to post the little component on your website, to drive those events out there, to communicate in email, to manage the status, that's all free. So if you go to the App Exchange today and you install that application, there's no cost to that. The cost comes in from kind of a transactional basis for each screen that you run that Corey's about to give you the example of. So great question again.
Perfect. Well, Corey, I'll let you all kind of be quiet and let you do your thing.
Perfect. So, adding on to what Brent was going through with the process, again, you saw him hover over that verify background screen button. If you were to click on it, what it would do is populate this screen. As you can see, we're still inside of Salesforce. We're still inside of the VMS application. So you're not navigating to any different browsers or platforms. This is all in the same solution that he just demonstrated, the volunteer management. Now, what it did is, since we already had some of Hank Mess's relevant information in Salesforce, what it did is it pulled that information over, such as his first name, last name, email, state where employment is located, to help us easily go ahead and perform that background screen. Now, as I scroll down here, some call outs I want to make is, obviously, for volunteers, the search purpose would populate as volunteers. And the Verified First team really helps you to configure and set up your background screening so that it's easy, simple to use. One of those key elements is positions. So if you have multiple positions, potentially church staff, or like Hank Mess is going to be a host that you want to run particular screens for, we will help get those set up on the forefront. And then that way it's only a click of the screen to then pre-populate those different background checks that you want to perform. You do also have the ability to choose a la carte, which I have displaying on the screen here as well. There's a lot of background screening. We do drug screening as well, if that's relevant to your organization. So there's a lot to choose from, and our team can walk through and guide you kind of based on risk assessment, what background screens you should be performing in what different circumstances. So for today's purpose, I'm just going to run a social security address trace on Hank. This is going to be able to populate that instantaneous report so we can view that at the end. Now, what I'll do, say as the volunteer coordinator sending out this invite, is I'll click on send invite. I want the background check to be auto-ordered as soon as the individual, Hank Mess, completes those authorization and verification forms. And I also have the ability to send them via text if I have Hank Mess's phone number on file. This is a really great feature because, as we know, a lot of people are on the go nowadays, and sometimes they're not always in front of their email and be able to respond as quickly as they were, if they were to have their phone. We've seen on average this shave about 8 hours off of response time, which is key when you're trying to, bring on volunteers for an upcoming event. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just continue on with the email invitation by clicking next. This is authorizing that I am sending that link to go ahead and perform a background screen on Hank Mess. And I'll click that. And as you'll see here, the invitation was sent successfully. And what it will do is then update us on a screen for Hank Mess saying that we are currently waiting on the applicant to fill out those disclosure and authorization forms. In the meantime, I have the ability to resend the invite in case Hank Mess accidentally deletes it. I also have the ability to withdraw as well. Now, what I'm going to do is shift over to what the volunteer experience would be like for Hank Mess as he's going through and filling out those authorization forms. So I just went ahead and I received that email, which I will bring onto the screen over here to show you what that looks like. Now, what this will do is this will be branded according to your organization. So instead of Verified First up here, you'll see your organization's name. So it looks like it's coming from you. So what Hank Mess will do is, whether he got that text message or he received this email, is he'll go ahead and click here to begin the authorization forms. And I'll bring that up on this screen as well so you can see. What I'm going to walk through is the forms that Hank would fill out to go ahead and authorize that background check. And as I'm doing that, one of the key features I wanted to mention as I pull this screen out is that this is dynamic. So whether you're on your computer, whether you're on your iPad or your phone, you can see it's easy to read. You don't have to pinch and focus around. So wherever they need to complete the forms, they can do it right from here. This is basically giving my electronic consent as Hank. What I'll do is I'll sign here, and then I'll enter in the last 4 digits of my social security number. What this does is it allows, if Hank Mess were to not be able to complete all the authorization forms at once, it would give him the ability to sign back in using the last 4 digits of his social security and pick up right where he left off. This next screen here is auto-populated since we had that data from Hank Mess's profile already that he was located in Texas. But something I do want to point out is these forms, as you see here, if you were to change the state to a different state, they're dynamic. So it'll automatically populate the required forms, whether it be for California or Arizona, that will be needed to go ahead and perform that background screen. So it's not something you have to worry about making sure we're covering all the bases. It's something that happens automatically based on their selection of where their residency is. And we know that's important, as a lot of your organizations have, locations across the nation. Here's just my summary of my rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So I'll go ahead and scroll down and just acknowledge that I have received them and I understand them. Next, this is a disclosure about the background investigation. I acknowledge the receipt of this disclosure, and at this time, I'm also able to check a box as the volunteer to receive a copy of my investigative consumer report if I so choose. If not, I just go ahead and click next. This is again giving the authorization for the background check that's about to be performed on me for volunteer purposes. And then lastly, it will have me enter in my information again. Since this was already taken from Salesforce, we pre-populated all the information that we had available to us. What it will ask for confirmation is just for Hank Mess to enter in his social security number and confirm it, and then his date of birth. And then lastly, if you have any former legal names, you can enter in there. If you'd like to pre-populate your phone number, you can do so there as well. Now this is confirming the address. Again, since we went ahead and pulled this information over from Salesforce, it automatically pre-populated in here for Hank Mess. But a good thing to note is for some reason you didn't collect that information, or the address through your Salesforce data, this is a place where Hank can go in and manually type in his address so that that will then populate and be on file. Finally, I'll just confirm and look at that all my information is correct on the screen, and I'll submit. And as you can see, so I complete the authorization forms, I receive a confirmation. I will also receive a confirmation via email. And then in addition to that, myself, now switching gears back to the volunteer coordinator, would also receive an email that Hank Mess has completed his authorization forms and his screens are ready to view. So this screen, once Hank Mess completes those and the screens are run, will automatically update. I do want to bring your attention to the sidebar here, which just gives you a bird's eye view of all that's happening for your volunteers. So where they're at in the pipeline with screening, if we're still waiting on them, or if we have the reports ready for review. So I'm going to go ahead and click into here. And what you'll see at the top is Hank Mess, which is who we just ran those background screens on. So I'll click review. And then what you'll see here is it was completed. And I have the ability to view the report again right inside of VMS and right inside of Salesforce. So I can scroll down here and see the full report of what came back on Hank Ness. From this point, I'm also able to review based on the information on the background screen. I can either approve and move forward with Hank Ness as a volunteer, or I can take pre-adverse action where I can send a letter saying, you know, a pre-populated letter, or I can say, hey, Hank, thanks so much for, you know, wanting to volunteer. Unfortunately, you know, there was some information that came back on your background screen report. Here's a copy of that. And at this time, we won't be moving forward. So it gives you the capability to make all decisions right here in the same platform without ever having to leave Salesforce. And with that, Ben, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, I think, and going through and completing screens. And I love the questions coming in, so keep sending them. Maybe we'll go to some of those questions real quick. Let me just share a screen real quick so you have this in front of you as well. And I appreciate the questions, Art. I think he sent a couple. We got Lila with a couple questions and Amy. So I'm going to go through the list of questions that we have here, and hopefully we can answer as many of these as we possibly can. And we still have about 20 minutes left, so we should be able to get to most of them. I'm going to start with Art again. And Brent, I think this is probably a good question for you. He's asking, is that email to volunteers using standard component, or is it something that you all built custom for VMS?
It's a great question, Art. So that is a custom component that's embedded in the VMS application. As you may know, because we're using a custom object in Salesforce as the volunteer record, the ability to send an email and send it to a whole group of volunteers, dozens of volunteers at one time, is something that is not easily done with the standard component. So we built that as a custom component, as well as pulling in standard templates. And again, the standard templates can be private or public templates. They can be classic or lightning templates. But absolutely, we've got custom component functionality built specifically for VMS.
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Art. Thanks, Brent. I think kind of morphing into that question from Art could be a question that we got about being able to invite donors to volunteer, Brent. Do you want to maybe take a shot at that?
So, your donors are typically going to be stored, if you're using Nonprofit Success Pack or other applications, are going to be stored as contact records. And so, the exercise would generally be run your email, your bulk email, the way you normally would, whether you're using Pardot or Marketing Cloud, or you've got some integration with MailChimp or Constant Contact or some other application. And what you want to do is you're either going to be driving them to your website where you have the volunteer page so they can see all the volunteer activities, or you're going to write a custom template that has the specific registration link for a particular event. So that's just standard Salesforce functionality. Again, your donors are part of your normal Salesforce contact database, and whatever mechanism you use to communicate and engage with your donors, just simply a matter of creating a template that you can drive them to either your volunteer page on your website or include the registration link for them. So I don't know if that answers the question, but certainly happy to take a follow-up.
Yeah, awesome. No, I appreciate that. Layla, and I apologize for butchering your name. The question, she's got a couple of questions here, so I'm going to start with the first one. Can you update the event attendance automatically at the event? And can you do on-site registration? Corey, Brent, I think that probably is, Brent, you want to take that?
I'm happy to take that. So I would say this question is like painting a room. Where do you stop painting on the edge before you get into the next room? So I always think it's important to understand what an application is and what it's not. So we built VMS together with Verified First to promote volunteer opportunities, to register the volunteers and to screen them and communicate with them. It was not meant to be a full-service event management tool where you're coordinating the actual attendees and people that are attending the events and taking attendance preferences and checking people in. So I'm going to say that functionality is not built into VMS, but there are many wonderful applications for event management on the Salesforce App Exchange, and you can also customize your Salesforce application without the need for one of those. So if you wanted to leverage, you know, the volunteer position to be the event management tool, you absolutely could. And again, my contact information is there on the screen. So if you want to follow up, Lila, after the call, we'd be happy to talk to you about how that could be done. But as promoted and published, VMS manages the volunteers. It is not an event management platform.
Awesome. Thanks, Brent. And this question, I think, Corey, could probably be more for you. The text, the ability to put the phone number in and send the background screen invite via SMS or text message, is that a text service done through Verified First, or is that a Salesforce service?
Yep, so that is a text service done through Verified First. So as you see, when I was going through the invite and included it right in there, so we'll handle that part of it.
Awesome. So hopefully that answers the question there, Lila. Amy has a question here, and this is maybe an interesting one, but it says, for a big weekend, long event requiring hundreds of volunteers, is there a homepage that lists all of the jobs with numbers of volunteers needed and how many volunteers have signed up? And Brant, I think this goes to the very beginning of our kind of demo today. I think the general answer is yes, and thank you for bringing that up. I think on the screen there, Amy, you can kind of see and walk through that.
Yeah, and so again, we built this little component, this little table on the front page using standard Salesforce dashboard capabilities. And so you could certainly bring up a subset of your volunteer events or the volunteer positions, but here we have only 3 published events. We can see the dates of the events, how many volunteers are needed, our progress so far, and still needed. And the color shading here, you know, was you know, it's just editing the dashboard and setting the highlights of, you know, what color you want it to change to red or green or yellow. But again, we always encourage our clients to use the full breadth of Salesforce, and we didn't build anything on here that you couldn't extend. So I think you'll easily be able to see where you stand on all your fill rates for your volunteer positions.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Brent. And hopefully that answers your question, Amy. Stephanie posted a question, and the question is, we host a managed volunteer hub for all nonprofits in our community to post volunteer opportunities as well for volunteers to register interest. This provides a central location for people interested in volunteering. I like the capabilities of VMS that were highlighted and love that it connects with Salesforce, but I'm not sure that it has the capability to be a community hub. And I think that's accurate. Brent, can you validate that's probably accurate?
Yeah, so the difference here typically in the community hubs that I've seen is you allow various nonprofits within the community to publish their own events to that central hub. In this case, you have to be a logged in Salesforce user to put the event in, but you could easily create a form that's publicly facing that you would allow your volunteers to submit, and maybe those volunteer events come in that draft status, so they're not automatically in that hub, and then as a quality check, you move them to active as you confirm that these are not, you know, joke events, or, you know, you put some sort of quality control on them. But you could absolutely extend this. The module could be put into a hub, and now the question is how and who gets to actually create the events that you're publishing. But absolutely, we could work with that process.
Cool. I think another question, this one's probably more for you, Corey. Sorry. So if I run a background screen on an individual volunteering with my organization, what is the typical turnaround time?
So that's a really great question. And Ben, the majority of our screens are pretty much instantaneous, with the exception of maybe a few that require some county input or some state input, and those may take just a couple more days.
Cool. Hopefully that answers that question. Another question, this one's from Kristen. Do the volunteer needs automatically order by date, or can you customize the top position based on priority? And Brant, I think that's probably more on the functionalities of the volunteer app.
Okay, I'm going to give you two answers, Kristen. The first one is within Salesforce, that homepage dashboard that showed the volunteer positions, because that's just Salesforce configuration, you can easily add a priority order and sort those however you want. And you notice there wasn't a priority order on those volunteer positions. So standard customization with Salesforce, you can add a field, priority sort order. On the front end, where you've embedded that little component on your website, right now it sorts chronologically by the order of the upcoming events. Presumably you're trying to fill the ones for the events that are coming up first. It wouldn't take a whole lot in a future iteration of VMS for us to add a priority sort order, and we can certainly put that down on a feature request list, but as it stands right now, the external component is going to order by kind of chronological order in ascending order.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. That's a good question. Couple more questions here, and I think we'll wrap up our questions. Lila, unless they keep coming, so good questions, everyone. Thanks for participating. Lila, another question is about security, and security is really important, I think, for everyone's mind. Question is, how is information kept secure, and is it secured by verified first or the org? Brent, Corey, do you want to maybe split that up a little bit?
Yeah, I'll take the first answer, and I'll let Corey take the second part of the answer. The answer is when you run the background screens, you can have it write some of the data automatically back to the volunteer record in Salesforce. And so in some circumstances, that data might be in Salesforce, and so you would want to set up your security model so that only people that needed to see that information could share it. But you don't have to write the screen report back into Salesforce. You can leave it entirely within the VMS application, within the verified first screening portal, and I'll let Corey talk about who has access to that and kind of what the security is around that data.
Sure, thanks, Brent. You know, obviously as a background company, we have some of the highest standards for security. You know, we're dealing with PII in and out on a daily basis, so security isn't an issue for us. And I think Ben and Brent, you can attest to, as we were going through and creating VMS to be within Salesforce, they had a lot of strict requirements as well when it came to data security to make sure we're compliant with them.
Yeah, data security is hugely important. I know this has been an app in development for a year and a half, and as a FCRA and a background screening company, you know, to your point, Corey, we do take security very, very seriously. None of our data is stored offshore. All of our data centers that are running background screens are U.S. based, and they're the best of the best when it comes to data security. Also, we purge data at 2 years, I believe, Corey. So we don't store data for long terms, and that's intentionally to protect the data that we have. Anyway, so very, very good question. Another question came up here is about, Corey, you know, how much does this all cost? How much does a background check cost? And I know we talked about the part of the app where you can recruit, manage, and communicate with volunteers. So the app itself is free. Maybe talk to us a little bit about the actual cost when it comes to screening.
Right. Yeah, that's correct, Ben. So the app itself is free. And then once we get to the background portion of it, it's important to note we don't charge any type of monthly fee or annual fee. All that you'll be billed for is the actual screens you run in a month. So if this month you run 10 screens on 10 volunteers and next month run 30, you would be billed accordingly for those. Something else that we offer, as we know cost is a big factor for nonprofit organizations, is that we do offer nonprofit pricing. So that's special discounted pricing to be very competitive in the nonprofit space.
Yeah, and the other follow-up question is, can volunteer candidates pay for their own background screen? We heard that at Dreamforce quite a bit, Brent, if I remember right from last year. But Corey, do you want to take a shot at the question about can volunteer candidates pay for their screens?
Sure, Ben. And yeah, it was a pretty popular question as well. And because of that, you know, we have developed the ability to do what we call volunteer pay. Where the volunteer itself is able to pay for the background screen out of their own pocket. Now, there are some laws to consider with this. It's varying from state to state, you know, California being one of those that have particular regulations about volunteers. So as a short answer, yes, and we'll always guide you when those, different regulations come into place.
Yeah, that's a really good transition. So I think that's our last question for today, Brent, Corey. You guys did awesome. I really appreciate everyone's participating. I'm sure that others have other questions that haven't been answered. All of our contact information, as you mentioned, Brent, is up on the screen in front of you. Please feel free to reach out either myself, to Corey, to Brent. I don't know any of the answers, so I'll probably rely on Corey and Brent to help out there. I do want to just call out, I just chatted everyone in the link as well. Just a quick little, tell us how we did kind of survey. I think it might take you a minute. We'd love to hear if you find value from the VMS app that we've created and any feedback that you might have. We're definitely excited, Brent, for the partnership, and Corey, thanks for coming on today. Any last remarks as we wrap up, Corey, and then maybe Brent after that?
No, I just think everybody, thank you so much for hopping on. It's a pleasure to share with you today this fun, exciting new application that we've been able to provide. And like I said, really our goal was to solve this problem for nonprofits. And so, our mission is to really help you achieve yours. And, super excited that Brent's been able to join us along this journey as well. So thank you, Brent, for joining us today as well.
My pleasure, Corey. And just to remind everybody, VMS is available on the App Exchange now. Search for VMS. It is free to install. It's free to promote your positions, to register volunteers, and to communicate with them. You pay a transactional fee for each screen you run. There is an included installation and configuration guide that you'll find on the VMS listing. If it looks daunting and you want a little help, we also offer a service, and that the link to that service is in the installation guide, where we can come and install it for you. So not to worry. And typically the install and configuration probably takes less than an hour. The hard part is coming up with thinking about all your good volunteer positions and what you want to call them. But we wish you all luck, encourage you to go install the application, fill out the survey, and thank you very much for your participation today.
Yeah. I think just adding final remarks is, thank you, I think, for everyone that is helping in the nonprofit world, whether you're education or not. What you guys do is important, and we're grateful for everything you guys do to make our world a little bit better. So thank you. We'll see you guys in our next webinar. Thanks, guys. Again, take a moment, fill out the survey if you don't mind, and then I'll leave this open just for another minute, but I'm going to go ahead and end our meeting for today. Thanks, Brent. Thanks, Corey.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.